How to get a trademark for your podcast or channel name, essential do's and don'ts. Now, you've worked hard to build your podcast, crafted your unique sound, developed a loyal audience, and created a brand that stands out. But here's the big question. Have you done everything you can to protect that brand? Well, today we're diving into the world of trademarks and how to lock down your podcast name so no one else can touch it. This is Legit Podcast Pro, and we are celebrating our 100th episode with this big one. Stick around. You won't want to miss out on what I've got to share with you. All right. Hello. Welcome to Legit Podcast Pro, the show where we talk all things legal and business in the world of podcasting. I'm your host, Gordon Firemark, the podcast lawyer, and today we're hitting a major milestone, the 100th episode of this podcast. Now, thank you all for tuning in and supporting us. And before I forget, if you're not already subscribed, please do that. Click that subscribe button, the follow link or whatever, and share this show with your friends. Give us a review, all those good things. That's how the show will grow so we can serve even more creators just like you. Now, in this episode, we're covering something that really can be a game changer for your podcast or YouTube channel, how to get a trademark for your name and protect that brand that you've worked so hard to build. And along those lines, I also want to just invite you to grab my free podcaster's guide to trademark registration. That's at podcasttrademark.com. There's 2 T's in there. It's your go-to resource for all things trademark, designed specifically just for podcasters like you. So first things first. Why even bother with this trademark thing for your podcast name? Well, think of it as kind of a legal shield. A trademark protects your brand identity, your name, your logo, your catchphrase, whatever distinguishes your show from the rest of those out there. And in the podcasting world, where new shows pop up every day, that protection becomes more important than ever. A trademark ensures that no one is able to use your podcast name or brand in a confusingly similar way. It helps you avoid costly legal battles down the line and gives you exclusive rights to use that name for your podcast or channel and merch and other business ventures. So here's a quick rundown of the top benefits of registering a trademark for your podcast or channel. First, you get to own the name and use it exclusively in your field. That's important. Only you. Number 2, brand protection. Nobody can copy your name or anything too similar without risking a lawsuit, and you would win. Number 3, monetization. If you ever want to sell merch or expand your brand, having your trademark in place makes that process a lot smoother. And number 4, legal backing. When you have a registered trademark, you've got the law on your side, and it's easier to shut down those copycats or prevent someone from using your title or channel name. So now let's get into the meat of things. How do you apply for a trademark? Well, and what should you avoid when you're doing it? All right, so let's start with some do's and don'ts. Do a thorough search. Before you file, make sure that no one else is using a name that's too similar to yours. You can start by searching the USPTO database online to check for conflicts. Number 2, do be specific. When you apply, make sure to describe exactly how you'll be using the name. It matters whether it's for a podcast or merchandise or online services, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Do consider hiring a professional. While it is possible to register a trademark for yourself, the process and the technical requirements for trademarks can get a little complicated. So I always recommend working with a trademark lawyer. If only I could think of someone to recommend. Oh yeah, me. Your lawyer can guide you through the process and help you avoid costly mistakes. Now, don't wait too long. If your podcast is gaining momentum, file your trademark registration sooner rather than later. Waiting increases the risk that someone else might grab your name or launch something that could interfere with your ability to register. Number 2, don't use generic terms. Common words or phrases that describe your podcast and its content are not going to be eligible for trademark protection. So be creative, but not too vague. The legal requirement is that the mark you're registering has to be distinctive. That is, it distinguishes your goods from other goods out in the marketplace. Number 3, don't skip that research. A simple Google search isn't going to be enough. So make sure you're doing a deep dive, especially if you plan to use the name on multiple platforms. We trademark attorneys use specialized search services that give us extremely detailed reports that help us evaluate whether registration is going to be possible and how likely it is that someone else might oppose the registration or there might be some kind of a conflict. Yes, that involves additional cost, but finding out early could save you thousands of dollars in a failed application, not to mention all the lost time and headaches and, God forbid, lawsuits if you end up infringing. All right, so now let's walk through the process of applying for a trademark for your podcast title or channel name. It might seem daunting, but let me break it down for you step by step. Step 1, do that trademark search that we talked about. As I mentioned, this is really critical. For starters, head over to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. That's uspto.gov. And on their website, you can find their free search tool. What you're going to do is what I call a knockout search to make sure that your name isn't already a registered trademark. If it is, and it's a registered trademark for the kinds of goods and services we're doing, education, information, entertainment, those kinds of things, then you're not going to use it and you're going to move on. But if it's clear, then it's time to look into making that deeper dive search to make sure that you're not going to step on anybody else's toes and have problems later on. Assuming your search comes back clear, then step number 2 is to assemble your specimens of use. These are images and other things that show how you're using the title or the name in interstate commerce. Usually what this is screenshots from your website where there's a podcast player or something, or screenshots from the popular podcatcher software, whether it's Apple Music or podcasts or Overcast or Spotify or those kinds of things. And then once you have images, these things, and you want to make sure you make note of the URL and the date that you capture those images as well, because you're going to need that when you prepare the application. That's what you're going to do next. When you get into that application form on uspto.gov, you'll need to specify what the mark you're applying for is. You'll need to describe in some pretty narrow detail what your goods and services are and how you're using the mark. And remember, trademarks are registered in about 45 different classes of goods and services. So you'll need to know which ones your use fits into. Usually that's the educational, informational, entertainment class. That's class 41. But I also always recommend registering in another class. That's class 9, which deals with recorded media files that are downloadable and therefore goods. So you're going to register in at least 41 and 9. I would also recommend, if you're going to do t-shirts and ball caps and those kinds of things, consider that as well, and maybe even register on the intent to use basis for those if you're pretty sure you're going to get into that. Now, step 3 is submitting the application with those specimens, which have to be uploaded as part of the application, and then paying the fee. The filing fee is usually $350 per class of goods or services that you're registering. Now, yes, that's an investment, but trust me, it is worth it in order to protect against someone else coming in and diluting your audience and maybe even confusing them with their show that, might not be up to your standards and whatever. So just get away. Okay, so once you've filed the application and paid the fees, you have to wait for the approval. Now, this is the part where you really have to just be patient. It'll take several months for the USPTO to review your application, and oftentimes they will come back with some kind of a response, require what they call an office action letter that requires a response. Sometimes they'll be rejecting it on the basis that it's too descriptive, or that there's a likelihood of confusion with another mark out there, or maybe there's a more technical thing. Maybe they want you to disclaim certain words so that you're not, taking those words out of the entire English language or whatever. But anyway, it takes several months for the application to be reviewed, and then you have a few months to respond to any of those kinds of things. But assuming that you get past that stage and there are no issues, your trademark will then be approved for publication. This is the matter of publishing in what's called the Trademark Gazette, and it starts a window of time of 30 days for public comment and opposition from people who might feel that your proposed trademark infringes on their rights in some way. And assuming that there isn't any of this kind of opposition before that deadline, then your trademark will be officially registered and your protection will be in place. And then you just renew it after 5 years, and then again in year 10, and then it's every 10 years after that, as long as you continue using the brand. Now, if you're thinking, wow, this sounds like a lot of trouble, well, don't worry. We've got some options for you. For those of you who want a hassle-free, done-for-you approach, I do offer that as part of my services. And it's really the easiest way to make sure everything's done right and we handle the heavy lifting for you. You can visit firemark.com/trademarks to learn more about that approach. But for all of you do-it-yourselfers out there who just need a bit more guidance but without the big legal bills, well, check out my Easy Legal for Podcasters program at easylegalforpodcasters.com. This gives you easy-to-follow, step-by-step instructions on how to register your trademark for yourself. Plus, it covers everything from LLC setups, podcast prenups, and it includes an entire library of lawyer-drafted forms and templates. Basically, everything a podcaster or creator could need to keep things legit and protected. That's easylegalforpodcasters.com. So there you have it. Getting a trademark for your podcast is really critical if you want to protect your brand and your content and your business. So don't wait until it's too late. Get started on your trademark journey today by visiting the Podcaster's Guide to Trademark Registration at podcasttrademark.com. Again, 2 T's in there, podcasttrademark.com. And that's that. Now, you've poured your time and energy and money into building something awesome. So don't you owe it to yourself to protect what you've built? Well, once again, that brings us to the end of our time. So I'll say thank you for joining me today and for your support over the last 100 episodes. And if you are new here, don't forget about subscribing, joining, whatever you want to call following. Rate us, review us. It's a legit podcast pro. We've got plenty more to come in our next 100 episodes, and I can't wait to take you along for that ride. Thanks for being here. I'll see you again next week.